When I think of wealthy people looking to spend an exuberant amount of cash on one of the most ostentatious vehicles you can find, the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon quickly comes to mind. At a starting price of over $120,000 for the base G550, this is easily one of the most expensive SUVs money could buy. And up until today, the only vehicles that I've shown you have been the more pedestrian G550 models. But today, as you can see, I've got the current Mac Daddy of the G lineup. This is the Mercedes-AMG G63 with the same 4-liter bi-turbo V8, hand-built and with the wick turned up to nearly 630 pound-feet of torque. So to see if this is truly the most gluttonous SUV that money can buy, I'm just alongside the Columbia River at the Bonneville Lock and Dam with the rest of the members of the Automotive Video Association for our annual Best Performance Car and Best Performance SUV Awards. And the big question I want answered in this ostentatious world of fancy SUVs, is the AMG G63 truly the most gluttonous SUV you can buy? That's what we're here to find out. So that beautiful dam behind me produces about 4,500 gigawatt hours of energy every year. Now, the Mercedes-AMG G63 produces a lot of power, but obviously it's not going to compare to a hydroelectric dam. But this is the Mac Daddy, as I said, of the G-Wagons. And just like the G550, you've got a 4-liter bi-turbocharged V8. Now, this engine shares some of the engine stuff with the 550, but it's hand assembled. It's got the boost turned up to produce 577 horsepower. So about 161 more horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque, nearly 200 more pound-feet of torque. This is the most powerful G-Wagon available in America today. And while there was like a G65 with a V12 that had over 700 foot-pounds of torque, Mercedes hasn't confirmed that that engine is coming to America yet. Now, this engine is mated to a 9-speed speed shift transmission. It's an AMG tuned transmission to provide quicker shifts. And as this one sits, it'll tow a maximum of around 6,000 pounds. So even though this is a performance SUV that's supposed to be able to go off-road, it's a truck-based SUV, you can still actually tow with it. But the one thing you can't really expect is good gas mileage. If you're gonna ask the gas mileage, don't bother buying this vehicle because it's rated at 13 in the city, 15 on the highway. That's actually 2 less on the highway than what you get in the regular G550. And as this one sits, it weighs around 6,000 pounds, just under 6,000 pounds. But despite all that fat, Mercedes-AMG says this will get to 60 in around 4.5 seconds. So once you're done looking underneath the hood, looking at the exterior design of the G-Wagon is basically similar to what you're going to see on the G550 with a couple of key differences. Now, first of all, I should mention that this is the all-new 2nd generation G-Wagon. It's been years literally since Mercedes decided to finally redesign this truck on an all-new platform. And for the AMG version, you can see 2 big differences. Compared to the G550, you've got a different grille. This is the Pan America style grille with the vertical chrome slats. Are these vertical or horizontal? Vertical. I'm sorry, like I messed up last time and I was like, wait a second.
Hey, and that dam produces electricity.
Sorry.
For that, so
okay.
What you were going to say after slats. Vertical chrome slats.
Okay, vertical chrome slats. Compared to the horizontal. Compared to the different grille that you get on the G550, all G classes are going to come standard with full LED headlights. You'll have an LED turn signal as well, and you'll have an LED low and high beam. These headlights also are adaptive, so in the turns they'll swivel for you. And then as you can see here, the grille guard. On the G550, it's on the upper portion of the vehicle, so it's covering the headlights and the front grille. On the AMG, they decided to put it on the lower bumper, which I'm not exactly sure why they do that, but I do think that the truck, regardless, looks fantastic. I think this is one of the most handsome vehicles that you can buy today, and I love that it looks so retro. It's retro, modern, done right. Honestly, this is an all-new platform, but if you park this next to the old G-Wagon, you'd be hard-pressed to tell that this is the new one, aside from looking at a few smaller details. Now, looking at the rest of the side profile, obviously, it's a boxy vehicle, which is a good thing. This is the design that everyone's known the G-Wagon to have. And in terms of the size, Mercedes actually didn't change too much with the overall length. This is still only 186 inches long. Its wheelbase was stretched about 2 inches, about 113.8 inches long. And in total, this truck is about 5 inches wider than the previous generation, which does give this a lot more interior space, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, the AMG version is available with a 20-inch wheel as standard, up to these 22-inch wheels that my tester has with these big AMG specific brakes. This one here has the calipers painted silver. That's actually a no-cost option. They will come standard with a red painted caliper instead. I'd probably just keep it red. I don't particularly love the silver. They're riding on 295 with tires, 40 series tires. So again, Not really tires that I would take off-roading, but then again, most of you who are going off-roading probably wouldn't take this type of vehicle anyways. Now, looking at the sides here, you can see, you can also tell this is an AMG because it's got the side exit exhaust tips. And this thing sounds mean. Let me let you take a listen what it sounds like real quick. Honestly, your rear passengers, you better make sure they're not standing by those exhaust tips because it sounds fantastic and it's probably going to singe their legs if they're standing right by that exhaust tip. Now, obviously, looking at the rear proportions of the G-Wagon, it looks pretty much identical to the previous generation. The taillights are in the same spot, but it's been modernized, of course. You have full LED taillights at the back. There's a new LED third brake light here at the top portion. And then they've moved the rear view camera so it's actually not being blocked by the spare tire, which I'm really glad that Mercedes-AMG was able to preserve their spare tire well, because this is, again, a classic styling element of the G-Wagon. Now, opening up the cargo area, you can see Mercedes doesn't really quote the cargo capacity for this vehicle. In fact, I looked around trying to find specs of it. Honestly, it just looks like enough space. Granted, if you're going to compare this to like a Jeep Wrangler, I'd say it's pretty similar to what you get in a Wrangler Unlimited. You can also fold down those seats if you'd like. But the one thing I really love is the fact that there's carpeting and leather basically everywhere all over this vehicle. Because remember, this one here is around $170,000. So you kind of expect stuff like that. So when you're spending over 6 figures on a car, the exterior design is obviously important, but the interior is where you're going to spend most of your time. So let's hop into the inside and see some of the changes they made. The first thing I want to show you, this is the current key fob that Mercedes-Benz uses. Surprisingly, if you guys are looking for intelligent access key where you can keep the key fob in your pocket or your purse, the G-Wagon doesn't offer that because of the door handles, just the design of the door handles. So when you want to lock and unlock it, you have to actually take the key out and push the lock button here, and you can hear it's got that traditional gun cocking noise that G-Wagons have always had, and I'll talk about that when we also shut the door. Now, first approaching the G-Wagon, you can see the door handles haven't really changed in terms of the design. To open them, you actually push in the lock button here, and it's just a very satisfying noise when you do that. Now, my tester here has the most expensive option you can get on a G-Wagon. It's the $7,200 Designo upgraded interior package, where it rolls in the diamond quilted leather, massaging seats. It's got heated and cooled seats. The seats also adjust in like 20 different ways. There's leather stitching everywhere on the dashboard, on the door panels, practically everywhere you're going to touch. There's basically leather, or there's suede, or there's really fancy carpet. My tester also has the upgraded AMG steering wheel, which looks fantastic. This is probably one of the nicest production steering wheels that I've seen in the business. And these seats are so comfortable. You can see even the headrest here is basically made of a pillowy soft leather material. And I think it looks fantastic, especially with the beige leather, the brown dashboard, and the dark green exterior color. Now, getting inside, you can see there's a nice little running board over here. Surprisingly though, there's no grab handle. I would like to see a grab handle here for short people like myself. So I'll basically kind of have to grab the steering wheel as I hoist myself in. But once you get into this interior and shut that door, oh yes, one of the most satisfying door closing noises I've ever heard. Sorry, I just had to do it again because this is probably the best sounding door slam noise that I've heard in the industry. And it doesn't surprise me, it's on a G-Wagon. Now, when you want to start it up, just put your foot on the brake and push this button here to fire up the engine. And that engine, oh my God. Let's take a listen to it really quick again. I cannot wait to get behind the wheel of this bad boy. This is insane. But looking at the rest of this interior, you can see my tester has, for $150 extra, what a steal, the optional 12-inch display that's in the instrument panel. If you guys don't spend that extra 150 bucks, you'll have 2 regular analog dials without the display. It looks fantastic with the two 12-inch displays merged together. This is of course the Mercedes-Benz Infotainment System. It's not their latest. That's the one thing about the G-Wagon. It doesn't have the MBUX infotainment system where you could go, hey Mercedes, find me the nearest Starbucks. This doesn't have that feature. I imagine Mercedes is going to add it maybe for 2020. I mean, they could. It's relatively easy to add. It also doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay. Instead, you have to connect your phone over here to this second port where it shows an actual iPhone or phone, and then just go over there and that'll display the wireless car or the Apple CarPlay, which is nice because I do like the fact that Mercedes-Benz takes up the entire screen over here, especially if you're wanting to use Google Maps or you want to use Waze. The infotainment system itself, I've shown you guys this before on the older ones. It's got 3 different ways where you could control this. This one here is not a touchscreen like you get on the MBUX. So you can do either the voice commands, you can control it from this little touchpad here on the steering wheel where I can literally just kind of run my finger across this and it'll actually scroll around, or you can also control it from this little thing over here. It's a touchpad, or you can also use the wheel. So technically there's 4 different ways. MBUX adds a 5th way where it's also a touchscreen, where this is not a touchscreen. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it just gives you a standard backup camera with parking sensors. You can also adjust the wide angle view. It's got parking sensors front and rear. My tester is missing like a $700 option where it would give you the full 360 camera. Honestly, for this money, you may as well just add it. Going back to the interior materials really quick, because oh my God, look at these, look at the materials on this interior. Like, you have real carbon fiber that's $3,500 extra on this tester. You've got the leather stitching all over the dashboard here. You've got carbon fiber on this grab handle. You've got real aluminum trim. I love the way the vents look over here. They just look really expensive. You've got 3 lockers over here, locking differentials. So this is one of the few production vehicles that actually offers that feature where you can get 3 locking differentials. It's just insane. It's unnecessary because people, let's be honest, people who get this vehicle probably won't be driving it off-road like that because it's an expensive car. Now, looking over here, there's a nice little storage area, and this is where you'll also find your cup holders. Surprisingly, no heated or cooled cup holders. I was expecting that, especially in this price range. The door panel over here, you can see it's nice and soft leather. There's beautiful ambient lighting in here we could change the color of. There's the Burmester upgraded sound, which sounds phenomenal. It's worth the extra money that they always charge for these. And there's leather basically everywhere throughout the lower portion. You've got a metal door handle here, metal speaker covers. And then over here, surprisingly, there's a lot of empty buttons. Not sure what this would go to, but most likely the European models would give you access to those buttons. Love the headlight controls over here. They just feel really expensive. Everything about this car feels expensive. The wheel, as you can see, it's tilt telescoping, which is nice. You have all these controls over here on the steering wheel, paddles as well on a vehicle like this, but you can also control the screen over here and change your information from this little touchpad over here. And you can also customize the way this looks. It's not quite as beautiful as what you're gonna get on Audi's virtual cockpit, I will say. For example, like if I wanted to put the GPS over here, it looks like it's not actually letting me do that, but this is better than what BMW puts with their Live Cockpit Professional. So you can see there, going to the designs, I can switch this over to Sport, which, ooh, I actually really like the way the Sport theme looks on this vehicle. Now, going over here to the rest of the center stack, I've shown you this command controller before with the touchpad. There's a home button over here that'll take you back to the MB connection or the connectivity screen. Going over to your vehicle settings over here, this is where you access the massaging seats. And Mercedes does one of the best massages in the industry. You can see here, I can go over here, I can check mark the high intensity. There's so many different ways you can get a massage, but my favorite is the activating massage. Once you turn that on, literally this is one of the best massagers I've ever felt, and it's in a car. So that's impressive to me. $7,000 extra, of course, for that massage. And if you'd like, you can also give the passenger a massage. You can adjust the dynamic select, the driver assistance, the light settings are over here. So everything's kind of in that, you know, vehicle settings information. And then this vehicle also has their Mercedes Connect infotainment system where you can go through all the apps. It's got a 4G hotspot and whatnot. Now over here on the center console, you can see it's a pretty good size. There's 2 USB ports in there. You can easily put, you know, your phone in there. The seats, oh my God, these are super comfortable, very luxurious feeling. They're just really, really nice, and they're also heated and cooled, so that's always great. The glove compartment, you can see it's actually a little bit small, but it's damped and it's lined with felt. And above me, I just have a standard size sunroof. There is no panel roof available on the G-Wagon, which is okay. I wasn't really expecting that. Now, one thing I am noticing, there is a cheap material here on this sun visor. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting this to be kind of wrapped in the same suede Alcantara that they have on the roof liner, so not sure why there's a cheap feeling material on the sun visor. But other than that, this interior is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It easily looks like it's worth the $150,000 price tag Mercedes is offering. And really, comparing this car to something like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, which is probably twice the price of this, I would easily do it because this is truly a really expensive and handsome and fancy looking car from the outside and on the inside. Now the G-Wagon only comes as a 4-door, which is good because if you plan to use this as a family vehicle to convince your spouse to spend this kind of money, you expect the back seat to be decently sized. Now, as you can see, getting back here at 5'7", you've got to adjust this headrest here because it does dig into your back. But once you actually get back here, this is where I had the driver's seat for my driving position. As you can see, there's a good amount of space back here, and you really feel the increased width because if you actually wanted to put 3 people across, 3 American-sized people, you could actually do that, which you couldn't really do in the previous generation. The floor is almost completely flat back here, which is nice. And I believe the legroom, I want to say it's around 37-ish inches. It feels pretty competitive. I couldn't find the exact specs on the Mercedes-Benz website. Now, in terms of the interior materials, this has the Designo upgraded interior, as I said. So you get basically leather everywhere. There's soft Alcantara on the ceiling. There's leather along the door. There's metal speaker covers. You have rear seat vents back here. You have your own set of climate controls. You have heated rear seats, but no cooled rear seats. And you do have these 2 little map pockets here. You have a little bit of storage there. It's an ashtray, and then you have an actual USB port in there. And then if you want to fold this down, you have an armrest that gives you 2 cup holders, and then these seats also fold 60/40. So the last G-Wagon that I drove was actually earlier this year. It was the first time that I drove the all-new 2nd generation model, and before that I had driven a 2018, which was the previous generation model, which was completely old school. This new one, if you guys haven't had a chance to drive this one yet, feels very much like it has the spirit of the old one, but just transferred into a modern interpretation of it. It's just so much more refined. It's so comfortable. So I'm pretty excited to drive the AMG version of this car because honestly, for another $20,000, you may as well just spend it for the extra 160 horsepower. Now, to start things off, I'm in comfort mode here, and the one thing about AMG models specifically is they have split personalities. Like, I can leave it in comfort mode right now. I can drive this thing normally. It obviously has an amazing commanding view of the road. You sit up high, you can see everything. You feel like king of the road in this thing. And it also constantly reminds you that you're in a box because the windshield is almost completely upright. You can see the top of the turn signals, which has always been a G-Wagon hallmark. And in general, I'm going about 50 miles an hour in here. It actually isn't as noisy as I thought it would be. The exhaust also even stays pretty quiet, but you can change that easily with a flick of the dynamic mode selector. But overall, the seats are comfortable. The ride is cushy, even though it's got the 22-inch wheels. There's no air suspension on this car. It's got a fixed suspension with about 9.5 inches of ground clearance. So overall, the luxury aspect of this car is very nicely captured. Mercedes-Benz has been able to preserve that. Even though this is the AMG version, you're not really sacrificing, comfort, which is important. You want to make sure you get the comfort aspect of this vehicle. So comfort mode is always nice for cruising, and it's probably the mode that most people are going to use, but this is the AMG version. So let's swap it over to Sport. And there's actually a Sport Plus setting in this car, which I wasn't expecting a Sport Plus setting. When you switch it to Sport Plus, everything changes about this car. You hear the exhaust gets louder, the steering gets heavier, the suspension obviously is going to get a little bit firmer. There's no air suspension on this car, but let's try a little bit of a launch with this thing and see what it's like. And this is going to be my first time launching it. Holy shit! Holy shit! Wow! The drama that you feel. My camera guy is next to me. He even was caught off guard.
Glad my coffee is
Yeah, because this car has so much give in the suspension. I mean, yes, it's been tuned for the AMG model, but you feel the back end squat, you feel the whole body move around, and there's a lot of drama. This thing will get to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, but it feels faster than 4.5 seconds.
Can we do that again?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do that again, but the drama, there's a lot of drama with this car, and that's what makes it really cool because yes, the 550 will do a 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, or 5.5 seconds, but this shaves a full second off of that, and it feels incredible.
That was insane.
It was. You weren't expecting that.
No! Like it revved and was growling, but then it growled even more. And
Yes.
I was like, what the just happened? No, it's not.
All right, we have to do it again. All right, foot on the brake, floor it. Oh my God, listen to that engine. I would never get tired of listening to that engine. Listen to that exhaust too. Oh. The crackles and the burbles. This has the, obviously it has the AMG performance exhaust. Oh. Oh. It's just, it's weird. A vehicle like this should not sound this good. And pull as hard as this pulls. This is hilarious. And that's the beauty about the AMG G-Wagon. For another $20,000, why wouldn't you get the AMG version of this thing? It's just, it's incredible. Why would I also take this thing off-road? I would never take it off-road. It's just, I would just do launches in it all day long and, you know, scare the hell out of my passengers. But let's go back into, let's go to regular sport, because I'm gonna get into trouble with this car. When you put it into regular sport, I probably would drive it in this mode most of the time because, you know, it feels a little bit better than comfort. The steering gets nice and a little bit heavier. The ride quality isn't too firm, but it's still, you know, firm enough to let you know that this is a special vehicle. And the exhaust is a little bit louder than comfort, but it's not overtly loud, so it's not gonna get on your nerves. Visibility out of the back, you've got that spare tire that's kind of taking up half of your view, but you kind of get used to that because you've got the good sized side mirrors. I mean, this car does offer the, you know, some of the driver assistance stuff that you expect in a Mercedes. It's not going to have their full on driver assistance stuff where it'll change lanes for you, obviously, but I didn't expect that. This is a G-Wagon. The fact that it even has all this stuff, the fact that I'm sitting here getting a massage makes this car incredibly appealing to a lot of people. And surprisingly, this is a very good selling vehicle for Mercedes. You know, it starts at $120,000, more than that. And last year, they actually sold about 4,000 in the States, which is unheard of. It was the best-selling, you know, year that they've got for the G-Wagon. And it's all because of that new generation. Now, the one thing I noticed, I crossed the line over here, and the one thing I don't like about this system is it literally will hit the brakes and then shove the car back over into the lane. I don't like that. I think that it would scare a lot of people if you're not used to that. I think Mercedes should put their lane keep assist in this car that they've got on their newer vehicles. It just makes it feel a little bit more graceful. When it does that, it's a little bit disconcerting. So while the dam on my right is definitely a breathtaking sight, I have to admit, after spending the day driving the Mercedes-AMG G63, this vehicle also took my breath away. And even though it's not necessarily the most expensive, the most gluttonous SUV that you could find on the market today, I would argue that for a lot less money than something like a Bentley Bentayga or a Lamborghini Urus or the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, you get basically all of the same kind of glitz and glam and features that you're going to get with those even higher tier brands for a lot less money. And keep in mind that the G-Wagon starts at $124,000 for the 550. This one here, the AMG version, is actually a bargain at $20,000 more. And it's weird for me to say bargain, but honestly, if you've got $125,000, you probably have $150,000. Now, let me go over the options list that this one has because it's extensive, and to do that, let me pull out the Monroney, and I usually don't do this. I can usually remember it, but there's just so many options. Now, the most expensive option for this car is the exclusive interior package. So it includes the Designo upgraded leather everywhere, and the massaging seats. That's $7,200. This beautiful Designo olive metallic green paint is also $6,500. There's carbon fiber along the interior for $3,700. There's carbon fiber on the engine cover for $1,500. And then the wheels. These wheels are $4,000 for a grand total of $172,395. Is it gluttonous? Absolutely. But I would argue that it's a surprisingly good value considering what you can do with the G-Wagon. Obviously, you could take it off-road if you replace the tires and wheels with something a little bit more off-road capable. It's got an interior that just simply blew my mind in terms of the tech, in terms of luxury, in terms of features. It's mind-blowingly fast. For something that moves 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, that weighs 6,000 pounds, I wasn't expecting this thing to go as fast as it did, and it also sounds just as good when you're doing it. So really, this has to be probably one of my most favorite SUVs. It's probably a dream car for me. I would consider owning one of these if I just had a ludicrous amount of money to spend. But with all that said, I'm not going to give this vehicle an RPM rating because I only had the car for a couple of hours. So whenever I have this thing back in DC to do a full battery of tests, I'll give it an RPM rating where I'm expecting to do extremely well. So if you guys have a ludicrous amount of money to spend and you're looking to get one of the fanciest SUVs you can buy, you should definitely put this AMG G63 at the top of your list. And if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.